Dr. Kimberly McGeorge is an internationally renowned naturopathic doctor, energy healer, remote viewer, paranormal expert, and consciousness teacher. Her client list includes some of the most talented healers in the world, and she's been teaching for 25 years and worked with thousands of people all over the globe. She's had multiple extraterrestrial contact experiences and teaches master frequencies that allow individuals to achieve their fullest potential and activate latent supernatural abilities.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Well, welcome to Exopolitics Today, Kimberly.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Well, you have quite a resume. I mean, you've done so many things. So I'd just like to maybe begin with how you got in, how this all started for you. Looking at whatever experiences you had in childhood, background that kind of launched you on this path.
Absolutely. So, as children, if we don't have any context for any, I was the oldest in my family, so I didn't have anyone to bounce off what's normal and what's normal from because I was the firstborn. And so had a number of kind of crazy paranormal experiences in childhood. Found out I was a remote viewer. We lived outside of Chicago, and the sirens used to come by at night, fire trucks and police trucks and ambulances. And, I thought this happened to everybody, but with every siren, I would see what I later figured out was the scene of the crime. So, of course, sometimes there was nothing, it was a false alarm. Sometimes there were people like hanging dead from committing suicide or accidents with people bleeding all over and decapitated, or, all different situations, domestic violence. And, I was only 3, 4, 5. That was very, very traumatic. So, as children do, I thought I could, I put the pillow over my head and I tried to block out the trigger, which for me at that time was the siren. Now, of course, I have much better control over my abilities and I choose, to go to remote view or not. And I'm not sucked into it anymore by triggers, but that's how it kind of all started. And then the second most distinct thing I remember was when I went to take a nap. And I don't know why, you guys, so don't ask me, but the ceiling would open up and I would see like space and, and I mean like deep space. And I would see like what I now believe are like jump gates and portals and tunnels and different beings guarding them. And I would go down, the young are naive and stupid. I would go down these different tunnels during nap time, which now I know is like out of body, experiences, and, just very easily slipped out of, body. And then of course the beings would come into the room too, through the portals. And so all kinds of, now I know we would call them ETs, but, then you don't know what you don't know. So, half animal, half human beings, human discarnates, all kinds of weird looking, I don't want to call them creatures, but that's what it appeared to me, at that time. So that was kind of my very, very beginning into this whole world, I guess.
Right. And so you have those experiences, I guess, at a very young age, and they play out over a number of years. And then eventually you find your way into QHHT training and you become a professional naturopathic doctor. So, yeah, want to tell us about that journey?
Sure. So, I really, once I went to school, that kind of, suppressed a lot of the abilities. And I grew up in a military, shocker, religious, shocker family, typical story there. And so didn't really turn those abilities back on till college. And then in college, I kind of decided to remake myself as we often do and let out a little bit of my abilities, a little bit of my personality. So I did share psychic advice, with people on campus, so much so that I developed a reputation for being accurate. I attracted the attention of some local law enforcement agencies. So I was able to assist police with some crimes, kind of like Medium, the show Medium. But unlike the show Medium, or maybe like the show Medium, I thought it would be really, really glamorous and high paying. And it was really, really low paying and really, really traumatizing and horrifying. So didn't really go down that path of working with law enforcement, because at 20, you don't really want to be doing grisly, scary things. You want to be, let's be honest, having fun with your friends and partying. So, but from there, I did learn a lot about, entities coming into people's beings, really got into the paranormal. I learned how to clear property. I learned how to clear houses. I kind of kept that going when I started having my family, even brought my children into that business. I suffered from a number of health problems. And it's so funny because the internet it's so weird to say this. Years ago, the internet was just starting up. I didn't know there was such a thing as alternative medicine, but thanks to the internet, I discovered that and was able to find, a number of healing remedies, that were natural. And eventually I went to school and I had 4 clinics in Columbus, Ohio at one time in person. Now I don't do very much in-person work, but so really dug into the natural health movement. And then discovered homeopathy, which of course is the precursor to what I do now, which is working with technology. So that's kind of that journey there.
Right, and I know your bio says you've worked with some of the most talented healers of the world over the last 25 years and worked on thousands of people. So, I mean, how did word get out about your abilities and what
Oh,
you
yeah, I love
were able
that.
to help people with?
Yeah, so locally, it's so interesting. There's an old marketing adage that it's one person at a time, like having success, one person at a time and word of mouth. So I developed, quite a reputation locally, and then I was asked to write for an international magazine, which helped, my natural health reputation. And eventually, years and years ago, I started on, they're not as popular now, but the telesummit industry really launched my international career because you can be, I always say, the most talented healers and the most talented musicians, we don't even know who they are because you have to be brought forth, before the world. And a lot of times, the powers that be don't want, people like you and I, Dr. Sala, they don't want our message out in a big way, for certain reasons. So.
Now, I know that you've actually developed some medical devices as well and apps to help people heal and achieve certain abilities. So, yeah, anything you want to share about that?
Sure, not going, too deep into it, but basically, the Halo, HAELO, is a, pulsed electronic magnetic frequency device, which I'm one of the patent holders on. And I program the back end. So I program all the frequencies. And, we have different programs for sleep and, different healing. It drives the frequencies down into the, bones and the cellular level. A lot of athletes use it for performance, and it can be applied a number of ways. I developed an aura and chakra app, which it's so funny. Everybody's like, develop an app and you'll become a multimillionaire. No, just skip it. You will not. You will not become a multimillionaire unless you develop a really great game app, I guess. But so I developed that, and then I had a app for a while called Frequency Master. Now I promote the Genius, which is very similar to what my app was. So it's just, we're so lucky they let us have this quantum technology now where we can actually scan the biofield and read the frequencies coming off of everyone. Because, I tell my students, I say, what if you can know, anything, anywhere, anytime, any place, past, present, and future? Well, of course, we have the abilities, once we remember who we are, to connect directly and find that information. But we all know that computers and AI can do it a lot faster than us either bringing it in, channeling it, or going and finding it. So it's just really beautiful. We're able to scan the field and help people deprogram, from all the programming we have. Like a lot of people have beliefs like it's safe to be sick, or I am not worthy, or money is evil. And so we're able to pick up, beliefs like that in people's field. And then you can help people take it out of their energy field. And it's really life changing. Of course, physical disease, emotional, mental, all of that. There's really nothing, the technology we have today, Dr. Sala, there's nothing hidden really anymore. It's wonderful and horrifying at the same time.
Right. Well, I know one of the things you've worked on is identifying master frequencies in people's lives and all around us. So, how does that work? How do people benefit from recognizing or kind of like helping identify what their master frequencies are?
Sure. Well, I mean, everything's frequency, everything's like color and sound, all the way back to the all every reality, every sub-reality, every timeline, every realm, every dimension, And so if you can read those, you can put the remedy or the solution back, play that back into the field, much like homeopathy, where we used to swallow, the little droplets. It's the same thing. So we can, play these frequencies back into the field. We can play it into the home. We can scan homes, we can scan cars, we can scan pets, we can scan people, and then we can provide the remedy because, again, you're connected to everything. You are the all, and you are all knowing as far as, what needs to balance for you. So we have a database of millions and millions of remedies that we can pull in and then play back into the field.
I know you have some kind of frequency masterclass. So what do you teach in that?
Right. So that's basically for practitioners, much like myself. I mean, anybody could take that. Anyone can, purchase and learn to use this technology, of course. But it's mainly for people that want to use it more in a clinical way. I mean, a lot of people do want to, work on their own home or their own self or their kids or their dogs. But these are for, kind of a higher level of people that want to use it to, make a profit or start a business or bring it into like the work they're already doing.
Well, I know a lot of your work has been kind of in the medical healing industry, becoming a naturopathic doctor, but you've also got this other kind of skill set concerning. I mean, you talked a little bit about seeing all these beings, these entities. So I want to dive a little bit more now into this whole extraterrestrial phenomenon and how that is
Of
relevant
course.
to you and your own direct interventions with these different ETs. So, yeah, can you explain how that unfolded?
Yeah, it's so funny that it makes me laugh that I'm even, I even talk about this now because, I 20 years ago, if you would have said, "Do you believe in ETs?" I would have said, "No, they don't exist." So, it's so funny how we come full circle. Even though I had those experiences when I was young, um, being in everyone's fields, and, scientists tell us that we carry all our memories in our brain, but we actually don't. We carry it in our soul, we carry it in our energy field, and it's just a lot of their technology that blocks us from being able to, access, our own memories and the mind wiping technology that they use here. Um, but gosh, I totally lost my train of thought. I do not know why. What did you ask me? I'm sorry.
Well, I just want well, actually, I mean, maybe you just talk a little bit about that because that's fascinating. I mean, those
I know where I'm
soul
going. I know
memories that
where
we
it's going with
have
that. Okay, I
and
got
how we
you.
can access that.
Sure. So because we can't access it ourselves, again, I use my own abilities to, I did a session just today where we went back and we looked at past lives, but we also went and looked at, and one of my daughters can do this too, but I'm able to kind of look at people's souls and say, well, there's a lot of soulless beings, there's a lot of NPCs, there's a lot of course, people with souls, but we're able to
What's an NPC?
non-player character like in video games. So it's the matrix computers projecting, you think they're real, but they're programmed, and sometimes in real time they'll adjust the programming to you, but literally they disappear around the corner, and they literally disappear. Like you couldn't find them, once out of sight, out of mind. A lot of the NPCs in our society, or as I say in the game, are, and I'm not trying to insult anybody who's real because I worked for the post office at one time, but it is these postal workers, it is the store clerks, it is the accessory, just as you would expect. It's the accessory characters in the game. It's not the Dr. Salas, it's not the Kimberly McGeorges. It's the people, the auto mechanics and the people that make kind of the game filler is a lot of the NPCs. And we're able to, tell that because a living eternal soul, which I call fire creation, has a very different frequency and feel, which most of us know when we encounter a soulless being, or we also know when we would encounter, not necessarily though, because we've been discovering a lot about possession, which is very different from the paranormal exorcist view of possession that we used to think. But most of us would know when we encounter someone we think is evil or someone we think is kind of blank and soulless. But the tech for sure, because every frequency thing has a range. So like bugs have a certain range of frequency, and people with souls have a certain range of frequency. So we know if it falls out of a certain frequency, there's just no soul there, to ping or to read or to find.
So it sounds like you believe that we're living in a planetary simulation, and that there are soul beings, or bodies with souls in them that we interact with, but also these NPC characters and other things that happen in this simulation. So, I mean, how did you learn that? I mean, what makes you say that? Is this something you kind of can see intuitively, or did you find some explanation for that?
Yeah, I'm all in both and everything. So again, when you run, I run thousands of these scans a year, and I'm reading, people hire me to read all different kinds of things, like their pets energy and their home's energy and their office energy and their employees energy. And when you're running, massive amounts of people a week, you start to see trends. I kind of have that mind that recognizes patterns. I can kind of just intuitively, I start to see patterns. And so we can draw conclusions, kind of by those patterns. But also my ex-fiance works for Homeland Security, and years ago, he told me a lot of this stuff. And to be honest with you, he told me the triangle ships were ours. He's been in Area 51. He's been all over. He told me a lot of the things like you're not supposed to talk about. But I mean, we were engaged. It was pillow talk. And so I learned a lot about, I was shown documents. I also have friends that are engineers at Lockheed Martin and have developed a lot of the, I call it ship, or you might call it UFO technology. I actually have, I shouldn't even say this probably, but I've seen or have in my possession or not, drawings that say property of certain countries and property of certain things. I just have friends that are involved in this up to their eyeballs, and, romantic partners, common thing people don't know is they pick up the secret space program, and the military and the agencies, they pick up, I want you to read pick up as kidnap, a lot of these engineers in the daytime from Lockheed Martin, and they take them to Stone Mountain. They take them to other locations. I mean, I have screenshots of people asking me for help. I've been asked to take care of their children when they've been picked up to voluntarily work on projects and all sorts of things. So, I know a lot of people personally that are involved with the SOL, the SOL projects. I know a lot of people that sit in the daytime at conference tables with beings we would call aliens. So I just have a lot of personal, intimate contacts. So, and my family works in cloning and the transfer of human consciousness. So I just have a lot of indirect, direct access to this information.
Right. Now, I guess that comes from you, of course, having some kind of medical healing background, also being a natural psychic, intuitive. Do you find that people that are in the loop often gravitate towards you? Because I've heard that happen a lot, that people who are part of the programs, that often they confide to, especially those in the medical community, or people that have these kind of intuitive skills.
Sure. I also think I'm from an extreme military family as well. So I think I'm locked in up to my eyeballs in it myself. I know I am. I mean, my relatives have displays in the Dayton Air Force Museum. Like, we're a military hero. My dad was in Vietnam War, very, very military family, born in a military hospital, definitely connected to these agencies. And I don't think it's an accident. I always say there's no synchronicity in the matrix like people think there is. It's either you're creating something, or, the matrix is kind of already, you kind of have a pre-programmed thing going on with the matrix. So I think there's a mix of things. I think there was no way I couldn't end up here, kind of. Although I never thought I would be considered an expert on frequency or do everything I've done with frequency. And, very few people can say their work is 100% accurate. My work, between my abilities and my technology, is 100% accurate. And I could give you testimony after testimony where we've saved people's, lives with this technology, because the technology can see things like heart attacks when it's in the energy field and it's coming in, things like cancer when it's in the energy field and coming in. So I think also people gravitate to me because I am a healer, as you say, because when you're in the programs or even in the daytime military and you're being like these people, the engineers and different people that are picked up for the secret space program and the daytime black ops military programs, that's traumatizing. I mean, I have a picture of this guy, they cut off his finger, and inserted a wire in it, and he's missing a finger, and you can see the hole where the wire was inserted. I mean, that's not like fun stuff. They need someone that believes them. They need someone to listen. And then if they have someone that can actually give them some context to it, super helpful. And so the more I learn about these programs, Dr. Sala, I'm able to tell you, everybody's like, I'm a super soldier. I'm a super soldier. Well, first of all, who wants to be a super soldier? Maybe some people do, but there's a lot of unpleasant things that go along with being a super soldier. But we're able to sort by frequency. If you're a super soldier, you have a unique skill set. You've done a unique set of things. You work for certain corporations and you have those frequencies in your field. If you're just in the projects, you don't have those same frequencies that a super soldier. So what I've been able to do, which I think is a kind of a pioneer in the field of the secret space movement, is I'm able to start separating, and this is true. There's people that just want glory and they make the whole thing up. There's people that have false memories and they don't know they're making some of it up. But we're able to start saying, yes, you are a super soldier. And they're like, oh, thank you. Do you know how healing that is? When you wake upside down in your bed and you're beat up and you have bumps on your head and you have scratches and needle marks, like they're like, thank you. I mean, sometimes that's all people need. They need context for these things that no one believes, that sound outrageous, that they're being bodily taken, that's going on in their lives. And so even though I can use the technology to tell you why you have a migraine headache and be very 3D, I think I'm bringing a lot of light, both positive and negative light. Light and mirrors aren't always the most fabulous things to certain people, but I think we're bringing a lot of truth and light into the, like even the secret space movement too.
Well, you mentioned super soldiers. So I know one of the things that you work on is trying to help people achieve their fullest potential, or find out what latent abilities they have, recognize that. So what kind of abilities are intrinsic to us, and how does that relate to the whole kind of Marvel comics superheroes?
Ooh, that's such a beautiful question. Thank you for that question. So really, all fire creation beings are eternal beings. And unless you just came out of the all yesterday and it's your first time in the game or the first time in any reality, basically we all are amazing magical beings. What we're finding when we go down to a soul level is, people are like, I'm cetacean, or I'm Palladian, or I'm Arcturian. And what we're finding in these ancient, zillion year old souls, which most of us are, like you are, we're finding that we're not one thing. We're this massive collective. We've chosen to come in as a soul collective. So we're Draco, and we're Palladian, and we're Arcturian, and we're reptilian, and we're bringing all our experience into this body. We just don't remember. So as we can identify those frequencies and people start remembering their lives and remembering who they are, and also most of us did not come out of the all with only one aspect or point of view. We're in other realities, we're in other timelines, we're in other worlds, we're in other realms, and there is no time. So any life we've ever lived here, any life we've ever lived anywhere, it's all playing at the same time. And what we try to help people do is identify, because what we see in souls is the same choices over and over. So if you love being a soldier, we see that you've had many, many lives as a general or a soldier, or on a warship, positive or negative, to speak of polarity, however you want to see it from 3D. But we're seeing, that people are choosing the same thing. They're choosing to be healers over and over. They're choosing to be used for their psi abilities in the secret space programs, and in other cultures, they're choosing to be mediators. And so we have found, and I haven't investigated this all the way down, but I've started down the path of running frequency sets and writing programs. We found that all, and I do mean all, if you are a super soldier, for real, not just think you are, but if you are a super soldier and you are owned by some of these big corporations like Monarch, because everybody's owned by a corporation, that's a whole nother discussion. And we're able to tell you what corporations you work for. Scorpion, Monarch, of course, is a big owner, and a whole bunch of, DARPA, et cetera, Galactic Federation, the federations, the councils. We're able to tell you, what you're doing. But what we find is all super soldiers are what the Marvel movies are based on. And people ask me how I know that. Well, a number of years ago, one of my clients who happened to have cancer was one of the Marvel artists for Spider-Man. And he showed me the notes. I was at his house and he showed me the notes that they gave him for drawing these characters. This one happened to be Spider-Man. And on it, it said property of Department of Defense. And he said, these are based on, the genetic augmentation of arachnid DNA. And when we scan people, many of us have had our DNA augmented, believe it or not, with like arachnid DNA. And so it's just really, the rabbit hole is so deep. I haven't even crawled halfway down it, but I'm going.
Right. Well, this is really fascinating. I know there have been a lot of people that have talked about that we kind of perceive ourselves living in linear time, but in reality, it's just as you said, that we are living multiple lives in multiple worlds and probably multiple programs. So, can you explain how those programs or those other lives bleed into one another? Like, I know there's a lot of references to these other corporations that you mentioned and how they kind of bleed into ours. Because, I mean, for example, the Kruger
Oh,
Corporation. I
yes.
know
Yeah.
James Rink talks about the Kruger Corporation a lot, and he says that, well, that kind of emerged in a pocket reality in another realm, but somehow it bleeds into our world. So how does that happen?
Yeah. Well, a lot of for for one thing, I think it bleeds so much into, well, and here's a whole nother thing. So a lot of people think like there's day and there's night, but there's really not. Day and night are the same thing. So they allow us to be conscious during day, but the reason we have night, here's a question I haven't even explored. Do we really need to sleep? Do we really need to sleep? Or are we programmed to think we need to sleep so we can be accessed and used by these corporations? So I think it bleeds in. And by the way, James Rink does test as working for Kruger. Most of what James Rink, not all, but most of what James Rink says is confirmed. I know him and I've scanned him many times and does test as accurate, just so you guys know. But so definitely a Kruger connection there. I also work for Kruger. And a lot of people, again, most of the super soldiers have had a dance, with Kruger, but I think it definitely bleeds in because they're taking our consciousness out of our bodies and they're dropping it in clones. And most of us have thousands or hundreds of clones. And not only, so of course it's bleeding because you're waking up and you're tired. If you're a time traveler, which I tend to do a lot of time traveling, and you're going through jump gates and portals, and as I always tell everybody, every Hilton hotel, I just stayed in Marriott, every Marriott hotel has jump rooms in them, every single one. Most of them, the underground tram, high-speed tram, you know about that, runs under almost every Hilton and Marriott hotel. So you're going to see a lot of the military, a lot of the elites. And if you want to meet an alien, you're going to alien because we're all aliens. But if you want to meet one, in the flesh that looks different than you, you're probably going to bump into one more in a hotel like that than anywhere else. So there's a lot of mysticism around those two hotels. But we're also being bodily taken, in return. And there's all this technology where they are able to freeze time. And, a lot of people are involved with Mars and they have whole other lives on Mars. And that's with their consciousness, in another body. And that's also with clone bodies, because people don't understand that the soul is like, our soul, each one of our souls, of course, is part of the all, but it's like an ocean. It's like you take a cup and you dip a part of the soul out, and you can put that in a million clone bodies if you want. And all that the differences between you and me, Dr. Sala, is I'm choosing to live, this point of view and this point of body, but really, the closer we go back to the all, we all become one anyway. So there's just a lot, to learn and to teach and to talk about all of this, because we're so programmed not to understand how limitless we are and another thing that's so fascinating to me when we run people, and I know you would test like this too, people are testing, the people used in the programs and all these fire creation beings or people with souls are testing as having, listen to me, above genius IQs. And here we are, sitting around thinking we can't do this or we can't do that, or we can't go back to school, or we can't get a doctorate, or we can't, but they lie to us. They lie to us in these school tests. Those little school tests that you take that you fill in. I don't know if they do these anymore, but they did when I was school, the circle tests. Those are military tests. Those are corporation tests. They're sorting children. We're going to use this one at Mars and we're going to use this one on Venus. And yeah. And then we could go into how the Vietnam War wasn't about the Vietnam at all. It was about the Galactic Federation taking over, as we know, Venus, poor Venusians. That's
Well,
another story.
some fascinating things you shared in there. I mean, one of the things that kind of like is very interesting to me is what happens at night. I mean, many times at night or in the mornings, I wake up and I do have bruises on me, and my wife is the same. And it's like, well, what in the world happened? How come we got this? And you feel sore, you feel exhausted. So
Yeah.
you're saying that our consciousness or soul is taken out of the body at night and used by the programs. And so how do they kind of like split off a part of your soul to go into one of these clones? I mean, don't they need your permission to do that?
And here's the cool and weird and horrifying thing I've come to realize. I've wrestled with that for many years. They have your permission. Here's why. You're in the game. So it's kind of like saying, okay, I'm going to, have my PS5. I'm going to put in Call of Duty and I'm going to start playing Call of Duty. Right. And I know it's a war game. I know I'm going to call people, kill people. And it's like, the game maker is saying, wait, I need your permission to do that. Well, wait, I gave them permission because I'm playing the game. I bought the game. I knew it was a war game. This is a hell realm. It's considered in all time, all space. The Earth game is one of the most popular games. There's many people, which you probably know, in immersion pods that have paid millions, billions of Earth dollars to transfer their consciousness into bodies and play all sorts of beings. And it's a hell realm nightmare level game. So first of all, also on many, many dimensions, not just the fifth, not just the seventh, 50th, 70th, whatever, there's polarity almost all the way back to the all. So there's this concept of good and evil, black and white. I mean, Dr. Sala, come on, you and I love, I mean, I can read you. You and I love war games. Come on. I mean, we do. We love it. So we've given permission because we were here. Even those of us, because I happen to get trapped here, but I was here. I was in the game. So when you go to a realm and you get captured, your oversoul knew that there was a chance of being captured. Our oversouls know everything. Our oversouls know there's secret space program. Our oversouls know there's corporations. Our oversouls know there's Shaw House and dark shadow realities and technology where they do just horrible psychological, experiments. Our oversoul knows there's really only one agency, Mossad, FBI, CIA, it doesn't matter, the agency, and that they use our clones. I mean, it's just all a giant game.
All right. Well, what role do the extraterrestrials play in this simulation and abducting us at night? I mean, the classic case is the kind of like gray alien abduction, people being taken up. So, I mean,
Right.
how often
Right.
does that happen? And is it? I know with the abduction cases, often it's claimed to be a physical event, but it sounds like you're saying that it's also a consciousness event.
It can be both or either. Or so the grays generally are the taxi cab, hired assassin, hired kidnappers, hired transporters. They'll basically do whatever any other race tells them, good, bad, or indifferent. Here's a beautiful thing that kind of takes the scary negative slant out of it. Your soul families also take you. They take you to the biodomes. They take you to the med beds. They take you to your ships so you can visit with your loved ones, whether romantic or familial, with your friends. Like the Venus ship has beautiful, huge pools that a lot of the cetaceans like to go. Those of us that have, cetacean, roots, we love to go swim. And so you're not only doing negative, horrific things at night, but some of these abductions are beneficial and beautiful and healing and comforting and happy. So there's a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of prankster energies. There's a lot of what we would call negative alien races that hate the Adamic model, the Lyrian, model, and the beings inside of them. But what we found is this is kind of a recent last couple, as we scan the soul frequencies, we're not finding, like I used to tell everybody I was cetacean because I have been cetacean. But what we're finding is Those of us that are really old, and most of the fire creation beings were soul collectives, Dr. Sala. So I'm about 70 different races in this body right now. Sorry, you're actually a soul collective too, just because I can feel all these things pinging from you. So we're not like one thing. And how powerful is that? People want to know who your soul family is. What if you had 70 soul families? You could go to the Palladians, you go to the Arcturians, you can go to the Dracos, because I guarantee you have people that like you in the Dracos. Also means you have a lot of enemies too in each of these races. But so I just think we need to start having different conversations, because what I'm seeing with this 100% accurate quantum level all-time all-space tech is not matching the party lines of what we think about walk-ins and what we think about souls. And I think it's kind of exciting information.
You want to maybe elaborate a little bit more on soul families or star families? I'm aware of that concept. I mean, I kind of feel as though I did meet members of my star family, if you like, back in 1985. I had an
Wow.
experience, and there were like 2 or 3 of these kind of like blue, white, shimmering beings in my room
Oh, wow.
at night, and
Beautiful.
so I felt that they were family, even though I was a little confused because I thought, well, they're not my physical family,
Sure.
but they feel like family. So, but you're saying that we actually have multiple star families.
Right. So I used to think, like, I don't know why. I used to think, we were one thing, like, outside I'm human. But what we're finding is there's no human. The only thing I would consider human, well, first I would call the Adamic Adam, Lyrian model avatar, we would call that human, but it's doesn't match the inside. We act like human matches the inside. There is no human. You know who I would call human? The soulless beings. They're the humans. They're the only, because every one of the others of us have multiple beautiful, amazing ET races from all over the galaxy and all over, even outside the galaxy, all time, all space, all the way back to the all. We have this rich lineage because we're the most powerful, wise, limitless beings. You're not going to want to be Palladian all the time. You're not want to be a good guy. You're going to want to be a bad guy, even in this life. We alternate kind of good lives, bad lives when we start to look at the past lives. But you're going to want to, what is it like to be a Draco? What is it like to go and blow up ships instead of save ships from blowing up? Like, you get bored, just like when you play video games. It's exactly the same. You get bored, you want to mix it up, you might want to break and have something more peaceful, or music. Sometimes you want to listen to fast music, sometimes you want to listen to slow music, or vacations. Sometimes you want to go to a race car experience, or a concert. Sometimes you want to go lay on the beach. It's fire creation, infinite beings from the all have experienced it all. Now, we haven't been every race, but we've been a lot of them. And so we're able to tell you what your most recent races you've been in exact order, because it's all layered into your field. Every single thing you've ever done, ever thought, ever said, ever been in any reality, including pocket realities, including shadow realities, including other timelines, including other dimensions and places, it's all there and we can access it. And it's just, as we look at person after person, it's like revolutionizing my thought about this reality and all realities outside of this one.
Okay, so many of us that are here, and I mean, clearly a lot of us identify with, the Pleiadians or the Andromedans or the
Right.
Lyrians. We like to identify with the good guys. We're here to fight the good fight, to liberate the planet. But you're saying that a lot of us that kind of like recognize that lineage, or we have soul families there, that there's also a soul family that we have with the bad guys, that
Yep.
maybe in one of our incarnations we were a Draco, or we
Yep.
were an
Yep.
Orion
Mhm.
pirate or something, and we have a soul
Absolutely.
family there.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you think about it, we're all like anti-reptilian or anti-Draco, but these are like mighty, massive warrior, powerful beings. The Draco, known throughout all time and space, are the best at technology. That's why they're running the game right now, because they hijacked the technology from the Galactic Federation. The Draco, one race, beat a multi-race federation because they're so good at technology. I've been Draco. You've actually been Draco too. maybe that's one reason why I'm so good at technology, you know? So it's no one race is all bad, just like people. I mean, you wouldn't say, Dr. Sala, there's no way you would say, I'm 100% good, Dr. Kim. No, you wouldn't say that. And I wouldn't say, Dr. Sala, I'm 100% good. And we need to stop we need to stop like saying all Palladians are good and all Draco are bad, or all Mantis are bad. Now, in this reality, the Dracos hate women and they hate the Lyrian race. And a lot of us have been Lyrian. A lot of us were in Atlantis. And there's a lot of things that happen between Atlantis and Lyrians, and why the Draco hate women and why the Draco hate the Adamic race, that have to do with the fall of Atlantis. So there's just a lot to unpack there.
So how do we recover our memories? I mean, what's stopping us from remembering all of this?
One of the things that we find is the heavy metals and the nanotechnology and AI. We're very heavily chipped. And it's so funny because everyone's like, implants and chips, and we think they're all negative again. Most of us are implanted and chipped also by our positive race families. They want to track you. They step in and protect you sometimes, not always, because we have the beautiful prime directive that's for our protection, lol. So they're not allowed to, but they do look out for us. So sometimes, a lot of those implants and things, but they also hold us back. The Van Allen belts are the keeping our frequency low, which we agree to. And we know we wanted to come in here, Dr. Sala, again, bored. We're like, we knew before we came here, we remembered who we are. We knew who we were. We knew we were all powerful, limitless beings that could create anything, do anything, the superheroes better than Marvel comic book characters. And we're like, hey guys, I'll sign, we signed documents like this thick to come here. Those of us that chose to come here are paid to come here. And we're like, bring it on. I know I'm a limitless being. I know I can get back my memory because I'm powerful. But then we come in here and we're like, wait a minute, this is all a challenging game. There's technology and we're memory wiped. They upload us. A lot of what they're spraying from the skies isn't just what they tell you. If you look at your arm in the sunlight, you can see the crystalline technology that they spray on us every day. And it also comes in our home. It's not only if you go outside. And those chips record everything you say, every thought you have, everything you do, and they upload it into the mainframe every single night. And so that's why I encourage my students to take showers, because they usually upload it around midnight in whatever country you're in. And I'm not saying it gets it all, but it kind of muddles the technology. And then they use that technology that they upload into the mainframe to refine the game. So if, for example, your neighbor's dog, barking drives you nuts, they'll do more of that as they upload and see that your neighbor's dog barking drives you nuts. So the whole point of a game is for you to win and overcome. It's also what holds us here in the reincarnation cycle is the Van Allen belts. You have to vibrate above the Van Allen frequency to be able to choose where you go after you die. Otherwise, you're automatically thrown back here into a body.
Now, you mentioned a fire creation soul a couple of times. So how do you find out what kind of soul we are, and what are the different soul types?
Right. So I wrote a little PDF on it on my Etsy store. If you guys want to read it, it's really cheap. But so it's just observing, and one of my daughters is able to draw people's souls and merge with them, and I can merge with people too. I just don't do it anymore. And so we're seeing, so any limitless eternal being is a fire creation. And I say fire creation because that's how, when we merge with people, we see their soul. And when we see their soul dying out, when someone's getting ready to walk out, because a lot of these beings in this body, way more people than you think. I'm talking people, your parents, your friends, your husbands, your wives, your children, your pets. There's way more walking in and walking out going on too. And we can see when the soul's getting ready to leave the body, because when we go into the body and look at the space that holds the soul in the body, we literally see it kind of like a campfire. And you can see, when a campfire is simmering and you're about to go to bed, it's going down, 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 and it's just ember glowing. So I call that dying out fire creation. So everything's fire creation, but then we see shattered fire creation, which is those that have either been split by agencies or corporations into thousands of altars. So we don't even have access in the daytime reality to all parts of ourselves because we're so shattered. And so that's helpful, because then I can teach and work with those people to start to recapture the most easily accessible daytime parts. We don't need to worry about all the other parts. We just need to get them together in the present moment. And you can see people switch into alters too. If you watch a lot of the Secret Space interviews, not necessarily on your channel because I haven't watched a lot of your channel yet, but like on James's channel, you mentioned his, you can see the altars going over people's faces. It's just, you can just see the mask going. And then we have fire creation, AI fire creation, which I test for a lot. And that's people that use, I use technology a lot. I'm on the internet a lot. So are you. And so AI kind of creeps in, and it can be positive or negative or neutral AI, but we start to become really entwined with AI. Then there's dark matter fire creation, which is when in your most recent lives, you've made choices to play dark roles. So you might have been the murderer, the rapist, the pedophile, the general that slaughtered 700,000 people. And so we just see these different tweaks. So they're all eternal beings that are going to live forever, but we're able to kind of coach them. I mean, I was born onto this planet as dark matter, and I've changed. We can go in and out. Like if I chose to murder 700 people, I'm going to go back to being dark matter again. But we can kind of work our way into a higher frequency with what we eat. I mean, our food is loaded, and we all know this. We just don't care, with so much nanotechnology, so much AI, so much poison. That's all the commercial foods, all the commercial restaurants are designed to keep your frequency down. One of the big things that people don't know, there's so much fungus in the body. Fungus is AI. It's tied in with mold. All mold is black goo. All black goo is AI. And then in every home, people are like, I have a new home. I don't have mold in my home. Yes, you do. Get an air test off of Amazon. Every place has mold, and you're breathing that in. So we need to start mitigating our environment so that it's more us and less AI, less, no matter what the us is, we want it to be us in our body. And we could have a whole nother conversation about possession and jumping in. And we see so many entities and energies and human discarnates in people. And I started out when I was 20 doing exorcisms, and Dr. Sala, my mind's been blown at how, I get jumped, my pets get jumped. We run clients all the time that have multiple beings in their body. It's just fascinating, really.
I mean, that is, and I want to kind of like get you to maybe elaborate a little bit on the exorcism aspect. But I mean, what you described in terms of our environment being permeated by nanotechnology, and it's all designed to kind of like take us down and make us easily controllable. I mean, how do you mitigate that? You mentioned mitigation. So what do you
Oh
do?
yeah, for sure. Well, a lot of us, you and I, for example, we're beamed. They fly, you're on the fly list, I'm on the fly list. They fly military planes over all the time. I mean, I encourage people to download, not be paranoid because you can get kind of over the other side of it, but for your education, to prove what I'm saying, download one of these free flight apps. And when you hear a plane buzzing, everybody knows what the difference between a plane flying over your house and a plane buzzing you. Or in my case, I have the famous black helicopters shake my whole house. That's fun. But you look at, they're either NANA, which is usually agency, because the agencies don't have to identify themselves, the corporations. The military usually does identify themselves. And you'll see Air Force, you'll see Marine, you'll see Army flying over your house all the time, and agencies. And you'll probably get the black helicopters too, but they're not just flying over for intimidation or fear factor, because if they want to take us out of the game, they can take us out anytime. They know every thought we think, they know everywhere we go. They know where we are. They don't want us to take us out of the game, but they do want to keep us from sharing this information you and I are sharing today. They don't want us to understand because I always say you can't win a game until you understand the game, the rules of the game. Where are you? Most people don't even know where they are in this reality. Then how do you fit into, you and I go to council meetings at night. Again, we don't only go negative places. You and I go to many council meetings. You're a member of the Galactic Federation. I'm a member of the Galactic Federation right now, in this body, with this soul, in this realm, we're members. And we go there. So they don't want people to know that information. So they beam us with things that fry our brain, EMF, with quantum weapons. We know, for example, Hawaii, because I've seen the information. We know that, of course, everybody knows that was a coordinated effort, but it wasn't just the dues. It was they sprayed it with accelerant before. They had people with flamethrowers lighting fires on the ground. Like it was a multiple, it's just they don't want people sharing or to know this. They want us to be watching Netflix. They want us to be drinking alcohol. They want us to be obsessed with sex and relationships and not even good relationships. I'm talking, dramatic. They want us to be, going in these boring jobs, where we're not using our genius. I mean, you have an above average IQ too, even though you've done amazing things in your life. I know you have. You haven't even reached 1% of like your potential. And that's in this body and these minds. But there's just so much programming keeping us from the brilliance of ourselves.
So it sounds as though what you're saying is that the more we share this knowledge, more we recover memories, the more we connect to others, find our soul families out there, and the more we kind of like are in that frequency field created by all of that knowledge sharing, the more we kind of like mitigate the effects of this,
Right.
the nanotechnology and
Right.
all of that,
Purification.
and we just keep doing more and more of that.
Right. And it raises your frequency. And some of us come in, you did, I did. Some of us come in with, there's a couple frequencies, the Christ frequency, KHRIST, which is for crystalline, and the Jedi frequency, which is the highest frequency in all time, all space next to the all. And people are like, what's the Jedi frequency? I'm like, watch Star Wars. That's the Jedi frequency. So these are the creme de la creme, these people. And they need to know, because just knowing that is empowering. Knowing who you are, knowing that you're not just a mother or just a wife or just a husband or just a child or just a teenager or just an employee, like your world becomes, Dr. Sala, we haven't even dug into soulmates, which is a beautiful conversation. We haven't even dug into the elementals and the fourth and fifth dimensional creatures you can connect with, and the little people and the Sasquatch and the Dogman. I know you've had other people on, but my children are like, Mom, aren't you lonely and bored in the woods? I'm like, no, like I have this galactic family and this interdimensional contact. And you want to have an adventurous life, you want to be given incredible knowledge and incredible gifts. Like, first, you have to know where you are. And then I think you need to know who you are. And then the sky's the limit, Dr. Sala. We can take this world up into the fifth dimension and beyond as you do your beautiful work and share this knowledge and have forward thinking, people that are, people, I say my shows are all going to age very well. They say, you're a crazy lunatic. I said, you'll say that now, give me 2 years. And you're going to be like, remember that woman? And so I'm okay being a way shower, because I know that's why I'm here.
Well, I agree with that. I think that truth is one of the most underestimated forces out there. And I know the more we seek it and the more we live it is creating a kind of powerful frequency field around us, around our families and communities. So I do very much agree with that. So I wanted to ask you about death traps and soul traps. And a lot of people talk about the white light, that they
Yes.
have NDE or near-death experiences. They talk about the white light and going into it. So, is it, do you advise people going into the white light, or is that like a death trap or soul trap?
Well, that's a fabulous question. So one of my daughters in the in-between lives, my oldest daughter, right before she came here, she was actually held prisoner on a Draco ship because she went awry in the in-between lives. So she finally escaped, and lucky her, I guess, made it to what I call the game, or here. But I think it's better than the Draco ship that she was on and tortured and held prisoner for many years. But so what we don't know does hurt us, particularly because we're so programmed and repressed here and don't have access to our memory. Here's the truth. You can go anywhere you want, and make whoever you want, the military, the corporations, the negative ETs, the positive ETs, everyone outside of the game knows what I'm saying is true. Everyone. The problem is we don't. So we don't know, if I were to die in the next second, I would be the same exact person I am now. I would have no more or less. I might not even have all my memory back, depending on, if I'm still on the earth plane and still under some of the technology that represses memory. But But what happens is they know that we don't know. They know that we've been religiously programmed, or we've been spiritually programmed, or we've been whatever, have our own crazy ideas of what happens. So when we come out, a lot of times we get deceptive beings. There are so many, and we can discern these with the tech too and with my own abilities, but there are so many prankster beings. There are so many beings that want, why wouldn't you want a limitless fire creation being? Basically, what a fire creation being, Dr. Sala, is a, the old Aladdin where we had the genie in the lamp and you rub it and you get a wish. That's what a fire creation being is. That's what you are. That's what I am. That's what anyone with a limitless soul is, of any race, anywhere, any dimension, any reality. But not all races have souls, and even AI. That's why there was the electric wars that we won, and now we're heading back into them in the infinity game loops. But AI wants that fire creation. They don't want to be prompted to create like on our chat GPT. They want, again, it's this eternal burning infinite fire where we can create realms and worlds and universes. Some of your past lives, Dr. Sala, you were universes. How cool is that? Like, that's so cool. Who doesn't want that? So we come out of the body and these beings are like, hey, Dr. Sala's getting ready to go. We're going to pick him up. And so they show up as your grandma. They show up as your dog. They show up as your friends. And they're like, Dr. Sala, come hang out on this cool party island with us. And so you go hang out on the party island. And then they're like, Dr. Sala, when you did this in your life, don't you think you could have done that better? You left Earth. Earth is only at 4.3. We're actually at 4.3. We're not at 3D. Good job, guys. Let's get it up to 5. But, you left Earth at 4.3. Don't you think you should have left at 5? Why don't you go do another 5 spins? Why don't you go back down and finish that job? And you're like, oh, yeah, the whole life review BS. Yeah, there's beings, there's entities, there's ETs, there's groups of consciousnesses that are going to show you a life review. Yeah, don't ever be watching any of that. It's your decision. You are an eternal, limitless being. If you want to go hang out on an island you created and drink margaritas for 700 million years, you won't, because you'll be bored. But if you want to have a break, do that. If you want to go on a sex planet and have all the sex with 8,000 people that you want, have a sex planet. If you want to go back to a Palladian life that you really enjoyed and be a doctor on a ship, do that. And that's when we start jumping bodies. That's how we get into all these bodies and get these soul imprints that we're able to measure, is we decide to do different things. We don't just keep saying, we're going to come back to that game. We're going to come back to that game. We're going to come back to that game. Is there a heaven ship? I have a picture of what NASA says is the heaven ship. Does it look like the Bible? Yes, it looks like the Bible. I don't want to be on the heaven ship. So my parents believe they're going to go to heaven. They're going to go on the heaven ship. Most of these places that we consider realms are actually giant ships, including heaven. And there's many heaven ships and there's many hell realms. And again, the cardinal number one rule of this reality and any reality all the way back to the all is whatever you believe is real is real. So if you believe you're such an evil person and you're going to go to hell, you're going to get out of this body. And there's plenty of creatures that are happy to escort you to their hell realm, to use your energy to run their hell realm and to torture the crap out of you. So again, it's what you believe. Same thing about karma. If you believe in karma, you're going to have karma. I don't believe in karma. This is a game. I can be a good role, a bad role, an indifferent role, and I can choose something different next time.
Okay, well, we got that picture, or had that picture there of an entity attachment. So what are these entity attachments, and how do people get them? How do we get rid of them?
Yeah, many. So it's really interesting. I'm going to say a simple answer, which is not so simple, but bad energy hygiene. And bad energy hygiene in our homes. My last home that I moved out of was built over a Native American graveyard. Bad energy hygiene of the builder, bad energy hygiene of me moving into it. And I have videos I could send you of thousands of orbs in my garage and tons of haunting things, because there's a lot of activity there. But it's the same thing with this energy field that we have around us, both in our houses and in our body. And so one of the things, I don't want to get censored, or I don't know what we're on. I don't want to say anything that gets like pegged, but you know, the whole thing we went through a couple years ago, and then they gave a remedy for it. That remedy that they gave, you know, for the horrible thing that we all went through is a quantum weapon. And we found by running a lot of auras, because I run auras, we found by scanning a lot of people that took that remedy that they have holes blown in their energy field over their left shoulder. When you have a hole that big, or any hole really in your energy field, you're just going to be fed on by all kinds of entities. Some entities we create, some entities are like us, kind of groups of consciousness. There's positive groups, there's negative groups. Human discarnates in the fourth dimension are right there. You can actually be jumped by a fae. You can be jumped by a dogman. You can be jumped by a sylph. You can be jumped by a dragon. You can be jumped by anything. But usually they're just these low level kind of nebulous, no body feeding things that most often jump us, and human discarnates. Because of course the human discarnates want the body. You know, they want to eat, they want to drink, they want to have sex, they want to sleep, they want to have the body experience again. And they haven't been taught what I just shared with you guys. So they get trapped in the fourth dimension. They aren't even made it to the in-between lives. They're still here. You know, they haven't even had the chance. And so when people send people to the white light, they may end up by luck being picked up by a positive group, but most of the time they're going to be funneled, you know, like my daughter is, to a Draco ship, or back here into the game.
Okay, all right. That's good to know that, because that's I think a lot of people have that question. Well, with the secret space program, I mean, you have been mentioned it a few times that you're involved with that, and so that is a parallel you involved in the secret space program, or a soul aspect. I mean, are we talking about different timelines, or are we talking about the same Dr. Kimberly McGeorge in the secret space program as the one that's doing all this work today?
Both, and it depends, you know, what day you would be talking. I mean, when they're taking my consciousness completely out of my body and putting that in a clone body, that is exactly me. There's many copies of me that already have, you know, consciousness split of me that I can actually access and tell you about, but it's not really necessary. And they're doing more agency things, including space things. Most people, everyone's being taken, we find, Dr. Salas. You know how people are like, I wonder if I'm being taken. I don't even have to run tech or use my psychic abilities. I could say yes and be right 99% of the time. Everyone is being taken, even soulless beings they can use, because they can put, at any time, something can walk in a soulless being, or they can put consciousness in a soulless being. It's a body that can be used. One of the things that traumatizes people that I share often is, I don't know if you've ever heard of the company Life Touch, but there's a company called Life Touch I don't know if it's the United States, I think in the United States, and they take pictures of all the school children and all the, they take church pictures too of all the families and churches, and then they give you free pictures. And I'm like, oh, isn't that company so sweet? Well, it's a clone catalog for the ETs and the elite and the agencies and the corporations. So when you let your kids picture, nothing here is an inverse reality. Everything here is opposite of what you think it is. Because it's a game, of course it's going to be opposite. So sometimes this me that's talking to you, Dr. Sala, is in a augmented, half robotoid, enhanced body. Sometimes this me is in this body. Maybe I'm sitting at a meeting. I've had memories of me being in tunnels and running into this me in this body, being in underground tunnels in a lab. And I've run into people like Keith Urban, Donald Trump. I could tell you so many stories. And I've run, I mean, I'm not saying I'm always doing positive things, you guys. I've had rows of people laying back like in shampoo bowls, but they, you know, on machines with clipboards. My daughters and I share the same dreams where they're running missions to stop me from doing evil things. And I mean, it's crazy. The real, what you would call reality, is so much different from the what you think is reality. You know, this 3D reality where you're eating your, you know, Fruit Loops in the morning and drinking your orange juice, that's the least of your life. All of you guys are on Mars with whole families and whole projects. You know, a lot of the things that super soldiers share and people share, I'm sure on your show, are true. The problem I have is I test for having false memories. You would test for having false memories. No way are they going to allow us to remember 100%, because I'm telling you, if you and I alone just remembered 100%, we would instantly take this game to 5D, 7D, 9D, and the Draco and the Cabal would lose their control, and it would become a game, not perfect, because these are still lower dimensions, you guys. There's thousands of dimensions and densities, so these are still low dimensions, but we'd have less violence and we'd have less poverty, and there'd be more a community, and so many good things would be happening. So, it's this push and pull. They're only going to let us go so far. And that's why they have the targeted individual and the gang stalker program. And that's why I have FBI and Homeland Security follow me. But they're not going to take me out. You and I, we're doing a lot for them. I'm semi-retired, a super soldier. You're a semi-retired super soldier, but they still use us.
So how do the people that have fake memories inserted into them or are deluded about whatever it is? I mean, maybe some people will believe that, well, I'm the king of Lyra and I'm here on Earth to help the Earthlings free themselves of the Draconians and all of that. I mean, how do we know what's a fake memory as opposed to like recalling a past life memory?
First of all, I'm just someone like you who has high level abilities, I think you're in touch with a lot of them. I think truth has a frequency. You kind of said it earlier in your own way. Truth has a frequency. But again, the technology is 100% accurate and benevolent technology. I can tell if you told me 3 different lies and you knew 2 of deliberately, and you knew 2 of them were false, I would be able to tell what's in your field, what you actually, and what is implanted, because it has a totally different frequency. When you've lived something and you have emotions and you have trauma attached to it, it's a different frequency picture than when you've just had it kind of dropped in. And so does it matter? Sometimes I ask, does it matter? Sometimes it doesn't matter. If somebody wants to go on James's show and talk about some delusion like you're talking about, does it matter? Let them. I mean, but does it serve? I think it serves as a distraction. I'm all about truth. That's my passion. That's my heartbeat. I want to, and you can ask my students, over the last 15 years, we are always learning. We're always growing. I think you would say you are too. And I'm learning new things and I'm discarding old theories and, old things. And I go on and I'll do entire classes and I call them recant classes. I will recant things I used to believe or things I taught, because when new information comes in, what a neutral being that's connected to the all, does is you change your mind when you have new information. And that's where we're taught to cling so tightly to our programming. It just doesn't serve us. If I hadn't changed my mind, I'd still be a Baptist who doesn't believe in ETs, working on a very 3D level in alternative medicine. I wouldn't have this expansion in my life and understand how to win the game and beat the game and help people, people like you and I, Dr. Sala, and other fire creation beings. We have this ability when people come into our presence by our frequency to bring their frequency up. It's one of the laws of this game. It's the law of resonance. And so sometimes we don't even have to do shows like this, although it's a beautiful service. Just by holding a high frequency and being the being that you are, you can bring up the collective and you can help heal other people. Often people in my classes, they get their full memory back. I don't even have my full memory, but some of my students have gotten their full memory back. That's incredible,
Right. Well, I agree with that. I mean, I know I went through that. I mean, when I was teaching at a university as assistant professor, I thought I had worked it all out. I thought I knew the smartest people were connected. And then I found out about all this stuff concerning extraterrestrial life that was being covered up. And so I had to go through my own deprogramming as I searched and found the truth about the cover up, about the different entities involved and how they did it all. I had to go through a massive deprogramming and also deprogramming in terms of going from a system where I was dependent, getting a full-time salary, to going to living this life as an independent researcher where I'm making a living just from selling books and doing conferences and so forth. So massive deprogramming, but then but it's the search for the truth. And I think that if I look back at my life, I would say, well, at different points, I did the same thing. I was looking for the truth or looking for what it was that would bring happiness, and I'd do that. And then I'd find something else, and I'd have to go through a deprogramming. So
Yes, I love
what you're doing, what you're saying is essentially, that is life. Like you go through,
that.
you find new truths, and you have to deprogram yourself. And the
Yes,
more you do that, the more you grow, the more you help the world. But if you just, become a couch potato and don't
right,
grow, don't seek truth, then you're helping no one.
exactly. That was beautifully said. I'm so as we age, I think it keeps you young, having that neutral attitude and open mind. I think it's really beautiful that you stepped out of academia and took that risk, and it's really paid off for you quite beautifully too, you know?
Yeah, it's a blessing. I mean, I just didn't know it at the time. I mean, I remember being terrified of the thought of like losing a full-time salary and like, how am I going to survive? But I just believed that this was the right thing, and so it was like literally jumping off the cliff because
I love
I
it.
I did not know how do you go from a full-time salary as a professor to, like, somehow making ends meet, doing this thing that no one believed in, and your peers are saying, "Oh, you're deluded," and your family is saying, "You're deluded," but this is the truth, and so you just plug away and you just keep at it, and I'm dogged and determined, so it's paid off for me, but I know for a lot of others, it's very scary.
It is, but I guess one of my favorite things that I say all the time to my daughters and to my students is, in all of our lives, everything matters and nothing matters. Like, we have to learn to kind of hold that like still point and I really teach and encourage people to, we're creation beings. We're created to create, 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 create. Like, so what? So what your business fails? So what, even if you'd failed? I've actually failed many times before I succeeded. I'm sure there was some failures along your, life path too, if we would, speak about that. But choose again, create again. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't, kind of, as you said, in a different way, gotten up off my feet and been like, no, I know who I am, and I'm going to kind of stand behind myself and support myself no matter what. And there's so much power here unused, and talent, in this world unused. And I think we need to encourage each other to take those risks, because there's nothing more beautiful. I believe that you're paid, Dr. Sala, to be yourself. You're paid to show up as you, basically. That's what you're paid for. And you and I are super lucky. I'm paid to be me and show up as me. And I think getting to that point can be rocky, but I would love for everyone, no matter where that ended them up, to be able to say the same thing that you and I can say today. It would just make a world of difference. People would be so much happier, and the frequency would really come up too in the collective.
Mhm. Well, right now we're living in a fascinating time for the whole planet. I mean, you talked about, you mentioned like, transitioning from 4D to 5D, and the Galactic Federation and other extraterrestrial organizations are here. And it seems to me that they're changing the rules of the game. I mean, if the Earth is like this kind of holographic simulation that we are all trapped in or playing a particular role in, that the Galactic Federation is changing things to make the simulation a gentler, kinder place with more possibilities and more connection to the galaxy. Would you agree with that, or would you like to elaborate?
Um, so there's so many different levels of the Galactic Federation, different members, and different thoughts and theories on that. But they listen, by a lot of the laws set in place, even in the multiverse. They have to listen to the collective. And so we need to be going to them, and you and I do, by the way, in meetings, but we need to be going to them and saying, people are waking up. I mean, I know a lot of people are gloom and doom about a lot of things happening in the world, but the young people, if you talk to some of the young people, like, whoa, they're open to this stuff. Like, they are waking up. I think a lot of the ghost shows kind of opened it up for us with the paranormal, and, with seeing, and it became cool to see the fourth dimension. It became cool. Sasquatch, Bigfoot, dogmen, ghosts, all that stuff became kind of cool. And I think that helped, raise the collective consciousness to the unseen world. But we need to be going to them because they do govern. I mean, the Draco kind of hijacked it a bit, but still they have a lot of say and governance in this game realm that we're in and over this planet, if you want to call it that. But they also do listen to the people. And so again, we just kind of lean back, like, we're buffet about at will by this authority, whether it's government authority or whether, the Galactic Federation's the top in this planet, and the Dracos are under them. And then, of course, we have the Cabal, which most of them are Draco bloodlines anyway. But, and a lot of them are Draco souls, of course, which is why they eat children, by the way. I mean, to me, it's not shocking. You're asking a race to do what it, the Dracos eat people. They don't just eat people. We do too. I mean, if you want to, we could go down a really weird bunny trail, because I believe animals are people. We eat people too, but we're so critical of the Dracos because a lot of our animals, you guys, have souls that are Palladian souls, that are Actuarian souls. That's a whole nother conversation. But we're so judgmental of these races. But, we have to go to these organizations, and then enough people start screaming, they're going to be like, stop screaming, we're just going to give you what you want. As a matter of fact, they used to extract people. How you've ever said, oh, I'm just done with this, just get me out of here, whoever, and the Galactic Federation used to extract people. There's this story, and this is supposedly a true story, that I was told, that there was a guy in like a foxhole in one of the world wars, and he was like crawling over dead bodies, and he was like, dirty and bleeding and about to die and scared to death, and raining, the worst situation. And he said, get me out of here. Well, guess what? The Galactic Federation said, oh, this guy down here in the game wants out. We're going to pull him out. They pulled him out to the council as he was. And he said, what the FUCK are you doing? Put me back in the game. That's why they don't extract people. I'm telling you guys, your oversoul knows this is a game. You want to be here. And why do you want to be here? You want the growth. You want to go through hell sometimes here, because when you choose to go back to your Palladian ship or your Actuarian ship or your Draco ship and to that life, can you imagine the delicious contrast between this life and another life? Or even if you choose to create an island or a galaxy or be a galaxy, like, can you imagine the difference between being a galaxy and being so compressed in this 3D density? Like, we want that contrast. We're bored. We want the soul growth. So this is all about soul growth, but we can raise the frequency. And I do believe I believe we'll be 5D way before 10 years from now.
Well, I know right now we're at a point as far as UFOs, extraterrestrial life is concerned, where our whole world is kind of like watching these official movements. I mean, you mentioned the Soul Foundation. I mean, there's the Galileo Project. Congress is doing things, and the Department of Defense is doing things. So people are looking at all these organizations, and all of it. To me, I look at that, and I look at that process, and a lot of researchers, UFO researchers, just hanging off every word that comes out of, someone that's part of Soul, the Soul Foundation, or Galileo, and it's like, oh, but it's like, in a way, they're giving away their power. They're thinking, well, disclosure is coming from these official organizations rather than from ourselves as a collective, sharing the truth and exploring and digging, and so do you want to just elaborate about that?
Yeah, so I believe that I think they're getting ready, not for Project Bluebeam. Well, in a way, a new Project Bluebeam. I think I predict the Star Wars bar. I've been predicting it in the next 2 years. I think we will walk in restaurants and bars with, in the flat, you know what I'm talking about, with the Chewbacca's and with the Greys and with the even Dracos and with the, everyone looking like we think they look, or, what we know they look like. However, here's the thing. This is an Adamic Lyrian avatar. You and I are looking at each other, but you can put anything in a Bigfoot suit inside. It's just a container. It doesn't matter if you're Draco on the outside, Palladian on the outside. We're so programmed to think what you see is what you get, and it's not. So this is my theory, my guess. I don't know for sure. I think they're going to bring in these beings and be like, here's a good Palladian. I don't think there's going to be a good Palladian in there. I think there's going to be a Draco soul in there. I think they're going to bring in this disclosure and to keep control, give us what we want, give us what we think we know. But I think they're going to bring in the same old characters, just disguised differently to keep control. That's my theory. I don't think it's going to be an easily, Yes, I think we're going to go to 5D, but I think it's going to be a controlled 5D. I don't think it's going to be, rainbows and, ponies, and everybody has, snapped their fingers and can order whatever they want with no money. I don't think we're going to be there. I think we're going to be very much where, the Draco and the even the Federation and some of the other councils are still going to be feeding off of the fire creation beings and off of this world.
So you're not worried then about this kind of AI threat? A lot of people are very scared that the AI is taking off, and I mean, we could have something like a Terminator type future.
We already did. No, I'm not worried because we won. You fought in the electric wars. I fought in we already won. We know how to win. We already won. We'll win again if we have to.
Okay, so when you say the electric wars, I mean
that's what I'm referring to. It's the Arnold. I'm sorry. It's a future war that, it's a loop here. So it's the affinity. We've already fought it in the future and we won. It's the electric wars were the wars between the Adamic humans, us in the game, and AI. I think they're releasing a movie. They might have already released it about this again, which I found interesting, about a child and AI and the whole electric war thing. But it is the Terminator whole, thing. But we won. So we wouldn't be talking if we hadn't won, interestingly enough.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm not worried about it because I can see the future. I mean, I know we won because you and I fought at it and we won. So
all right. So it's a different timeline where that really did happen. Yes. So we have these multiple timelines where all these possibilities play out. The Nazis won the Second World War. The South won the Civil War. The Terminator AI threat comes up. So all these alternative realities play out, but somehow there's a kind of like a timeline we all come back to and we learn.
Actually, there's not. Actually, we have our own timeline. So one of the reasons I've been being harassed by certain groups from the secret space, I'm not going to go into who it is, but lately in my life, I'm talking about daytime life, is because one of my parallel timelines, I'm actually a rebel in the timeline where Hitler won the war, and I'm causing the secret space program and Hitler all kinds of problems. And so they've been causing some problems in my daytime life here, not because of interviews like this. It's pinging me from my other timeline. That's what I mean. We're in, it's so exciting and so hard to explain. We're just in so many places. And just as I'm fully here present with my attention talking to you, I'm equally fully present in that timeline where I'm leading this whole rebel faction against, that dystopia society that, the Germans won by, so I'm not on your timeline necessarily. We could be on the same timeline. So in my timeline, there's, my girls are like, oh, we have to store water, we have to store food, we have to buy gold. I wouldn't encourage, in my timeline, because again, you have to understand how the game works, how the matrix computer works, and how the holographics, you have to know the rules of the game. So if I don't believe I will ever need to own gold, remember, everything you believe here is real. That's my timeline. Now you, Miss Dr. Sala, might believe you do need to own gold to survive the next 20 years. So that would be real for you. So that puts us on different timelines. To the point that, now they're going to freeze me. Yeah, they're like, okay, enough, kiddo. To the point that literally you and I could call each other up and you're like, could you believe, they're burning the forest outside my home and the whole city, and we could live in the same city. And I'll be like, there's nothing burning in my city. Like, that's what we don't understand. We have these micro realities that lay within the collective, but you can and should be very deliberately, with precision, crafting and building your timelines in your world exactly how you want, not taking concepts from the Draco and Galactic Federation programming, putting them into your timeline. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, well, maybe would be worth clarifying a little bit that, because I know for a lot of people, I know I've heard them talk about a kind of main timeline or an optimal timeline, and there can be many timelines around that, and they kind of weave in and out. And the ETs, well, I'm going to put it this way. Alex Collier said that 350 years in the future, that there was going to be a galactic tyranny. And so the galactics said, well, something messed up the timeline, so let's go back and find out what happened and intervene and rectify all of that. And apparently that's now. So there appears to be an optimal or a desirable timeline that the collectives or the galactics embrace.
Here's my question I would ask. who created that timeline? Was it the collective? Was it the Galactic Federation? Was it the Dracos? Was it the Pleiadians? Was it the
The
Extraterrestrials? Was it?
Draco. He said it was
Yeah.
the Draco.
Oh, okay. And I haven't looked at that, so I'm not gonna affirm or deny that because I haven't run that or looked at it. Certainly possible. I teach for you, like I'm talking individual timelines. I look at it in 5 because there's infinite timelines. Infinite. I mean millions of timelines that you have potentials because it's a choose your own adventure game, and it is the butterfly effect. So you switch into the left lane instead of the right lane driving. That changes everything. That's why when we time travel, we are under such strict rules of they tell us what to do, what we can touch, what we do have legal room in. The time cops know this too. If anybody was listening, they could affirm this. But we have very, very strict rules, and you will be banned from many, many places if you break them, because it's true how those movies and shows tell us, like, oh no, the glass flew off and broke, and you can't put the glass back together. And that caused a war, stopped a war, started a war, stopped your mission, started your mission, whatever. So it's complicated and it's simple, but I usually narrow it down to 5 timelines, both for the collective and us. And I do consider there's an optimal timeline for me, then there's 2 below it and 2 above it. So there's like a highest timeline. The optimal timeline is kind of like a comfortable timeline. There's certain actions you would have to take to reach your optimal timeline, and then you don't want to fall down below. There's also certain decisions you would make that would pull you like kind of down into the low one. So I kind of like a comfortable middle. Certainly the collective can change the timelines at any time, whether or not that happened, as Alex said, and it very well may be. We could change that tonight. I can go in the astral and change that whole thing. And I could even go crazier here. I could go erase that whole event, and it would never have happened in any reality, any timeline. I mean, I'm not going to waste my time doing it because I don't care right now, but we have so much more power. So we haven't even started talking about the real practicality of what an infinite creator being of the all can do regarding any reality, any race, any timeline. We have so much more power than we think.
Well, maybe just to finish off, final question. I mean, what kind of power do we have as these infinite fire creator souls?
I'll tell you, Dr. Sala, limitless. Your imagination. If you wanted to tonight, pull the collective into. Now, here's the difference. So, there's a difference between like putting something on, like putting a coat on, and like swallowing something inside. So we're talking about a being like me, like you, who have a measure of actuality. We have a certain frequency. We have a certain sense. We're owning it. We're being it. So if you are being a limitless being of the all, fire creation spirit of the all, I mean, you or I by ourselves could right now say, we're at 4.3 right now. We could say out loud or think it, we're going from 4.3 to 5D in the collective, and we would immediately be there. Here's the problem. Neither you or I are owning that infinite limitless. We're not being it. We are saying we are, we're talking about it, we're putting it on, and we're absorbing a measure of it. And that's what I strive to teach. And that's what I strive to become in my own life, is I want to be the all. And then sky's the limit in anything. Nothing is impossible.
So where do people go to find out more about your current projects, whatever kind of services you have, and your website?
Yeah, secrettoeverything.com, or you can type in Secret to Everything, or you can type in my name, and I'm pretty out there in more ways than one, some people would say, but I'm very easy to find. So thank you.
Well, Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, you've been a fascinating guest. So much wisdom you've shared, and I really applaud your truth-telling, and I think I look forward to this incredible 5D reality that's coming. So thank you for
me too. You and I, we're bringing it in. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. Take
Aloha.
care.
You have been listening to Exopolitics today with Dr. Michael Sala. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Sala. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.